to run PowerPC games on Windows. That's the 360 ones.
Right.
On the Xbox One, honestly, most of the big games, like we've been shipping our first party in both places,
Yeah.
so it's probably not as critical. It was hard to get those PowerPC games to run on the fixed spec machine that we have with Xbox One.
Yeah.
When you start and get it to the variability of PCs that are out there, I never say never. Honestly, we'd probably stream them before we would try to run them natively, and I don't know if that's the best answer.
Yeah. I know there are hobbyists out there kind of making it happen.
They are. They're trying, and I don't have any problem with that, assuming all the IP stuff is cool. But I think so. That was I saw some confusion on that, and it's hard when to jump in the middle of, and we haven't talked about the Win32 stuff coming to Windows or any of that.
But let that one stay out there and be like, we'll get to this when we get to this. But so as we talk about kind of the convergence of all these kind of years of plans and stuff coming together, it seems like E3 is still the place.
It is for us.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it is for you guys. I love the celebration that's here. We had 1,500 fans, and it was crazy. Keanu Reeves, blah.
Yeah.
But as an industry, I think it's a time of the year where the world pays attention, because we can come together and make enough noise to kind of get outside of just talking to ourselves. And I like talking to ourselves, but I also think when you see some of the legislation that's trying to go on around gaming, WHO stuff,
right?
Like, we have to stand up as an art form and as an industry and explain that we're not just slack-jawed kids in basements with swearing at each other trying to headshot everybody.
Right.
And because when that's the perception of what gaming is, it's not going to get to the place where we all even stay where it is, frankly, if you look at things that are coming in. So I like the fact that E3, because I think I did a panel this morning with Strauss Zelnick, and who runs Take-Two, Robert Altman, who runs ZeniMax, and myself. And we should be able to stand up as leaders in our industry and talk about where we want the industry to go and things that are important. And I think that matters. So yes, I think all companies should be at E3, and I think we should celebrate gaming that we love. And I wish Sony was here. I wish Activision was here. And I think E3 is not as good when they're not here.
Yeah. I think it's just an interesting year, because I'm thinking about it in terms of like how it was last time we turned generations, or the time before that, or the time before that, and now with the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One X, kind of changing what these cycles look like, and now you're out talking about xCloud and playing games everywhere and all this. It really feels like, well, I guess like I'll ask, like, do you think that we've seen like a permanent disruption to what we think of as the classic console cycle? Now that, when we think about, another 5 years after the release of Scarlet, will there be another box, or will streaming have gotten there, or that sort of thing? Will there be another X or upgraded version of Scarlet down the line? What do you think?
I don't know.
You're kind of, you, of course you wouldn't know, but like, what do you think?
I will say what we're planning for.
Yeah.
We're not planning for Scarlet to be our last console.
Yeah.
So, we're continuing to invest in our hardware team. I know you had Carl on, and like, Liz Hamron, who runs our Xbox platform team. We're going to ship Project Scarlet. We think it's an important design point in the balance between CPU and GPU that we've just never really hit on a console before, which is going to help us with feel and frame rate. And refresh rate synced with game loops and stuff, which will be really helpful for the feel of games. With X, what we did, and people teased us a little bit about the true 4K, but we wanted to pick a spec that we thought could really deliver 4K games, and we didn't think we could do that until the time. You've heard all this already.
Yeah.
So the thing for us past Scarlet is, what is that next inflection point of experience that would actually be meaningful? We thought 4K would be meaningful. You can argue, and if you don't think so, go buy an S or go buy a PlayStation or whatever, right? But if you thought 4K at like 6 teraflops, all the kind of stuff we talked about was the thing that you wanted, we wanted to make sure we had the memory bandwidth and the GPU to deliver 4K scene.
Okay. Oh, we need 4K. We need 4K for everything. Oh my God.
I think we have something meaningful at the next points, frankly, that both of us are just about at, from what I know. Beyond that, I don't know what that is, but we're not planning for not doing another console.
Right.
And I don't think in that timeline that I'm going to be playing games that feel like my Scarlet games that are streamed, right? On a screen that's 60 inches and all that. I don't know. I could be wrong, right? But we're going to continue with our xCloud work, and we're going to continue with the magic that's being put in there. But we look at it as me running local hardware. You know, the analogy I use is going to be important. The analogy I use is, you know, I'm a Spotify subscriber, I'm a Netflix subscriber. It's not like that streaming has actually led to fewer devices around me. If anything, I have more devices around me.
True. Yeah.
Right. And the price point of a console isn't for everybody, but it's not $1,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it goes down over time.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea that I would have a dedicated machine in my house that plays games really well doesn't seem foreign to me, even if I'm streaming games a lot of the time. But again, I don't know. But definitely, we don't yet know what past Scarlet would be the thing. We don't have a need to do one like 2 or 3 years after that.
Yeah.
We would just continue to focus on, is there something meaningful from an experience that we can
Or
do?
if something changes, like all of a sudden everyone buys 8K TVs or something.
That's
like,
right.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
okay, now
Yeah.
maybe do we have to address this? Or,
Yeah, I kind of hope that's not it. But,
Yeah.
Well, because at some point,
Yeah.
just ask that crazy, you're like, ah.
Yeah,
But
it's
but yeah, it would be something that would come along and say what I had before doesn't feel like it's fulfilling state-of-the-art experiences that I have in my home, and that's what I want. And yeah, like that's what we're planning for. But we'll always be eyes wide open.
Go back to the conference a little bit.
Yeah.
How does Phantasy Star Online 2 make its way into
Yes.
a press conference? It is 2019. I think that game came out in 2012.
No. I think Phantasy Star 1 was on
well.
original.
Oh yeah, Phantasy Star.
Well, that's
online
why.
one. Yeah. Okay.
So, my story on that, and obviously Sega. Well, Sega's primarily ultimately responsible for it. I go to Japan fairly often now, and I meet with all the publishers, and I'd go to see Sega, and I'm sure they were getting it from other places. So I'm not trying to say this is because of me, but I was like,
they've been getting it from other places
yeah,
for a while.
good. So, and I just said, so many of the constructs in today's multiplayer games, it used to be like, all great things came from Quake. Like we've all heard that before.
Yeah.
And I said, like, so many of the constructs in today's online console games were born in Phantasy Star, and 90% of the gamers today don't know what a Phantasy Star Online is.
Right.
So like, and it was a little bit like with Capcom with Monster Hunter. Like Monster Hunter is one of the coolest franchise names in the world, and nobody's too strong there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people outside didn't know about it, so it was great in those conversations. With Phantasy Star, so it's just like that's the team I want to talk to. I don't usually spend as much time with like the CEO types. It's usually just like, let me sit down with the studios and play games.
Yeah.
And I want to sit down with Phantasy Star team and tell me where you are, what are your seasons, and hey, how could we support you?
Yeah.
And what would we need to do on the platform? I'd love to come out on stage after we announce it and say some things, and if that helps us get it done, I'm more than happy to do that. So it was really just, I want to do something with Sega. They were very receptive. I happen to have a soft spot for PSO, and I do think it can be a meaningful franchise. And come on, the trailer had dinosaurs, battleships, spaceship, like it was all over the place.
All those expansions came out because I still get emails in Japanese that I don't know how to turn off because I signed up for a PSO2 account when it launched over there. And like, I can't solve the CAPTCHA fast enough because it's in like katakana, and I'm just like, I don't know any of that.
Well, hopefully we'll get English versions of those.
Great, yeah. Well, will players be able to bring in characters?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
and
that's probably up to Sega at that point. But
like, and I know even the announce it said North America, and some of my friends outside of North America say, hey, Iron Wolf say, hey, is this going to be available in London? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just glad we could finally get it out, here.
Like just the idea of an official translation. People have been fan translating an online MMO for years.
I know.
It's
and I try to explain. I'm like, what a Destiny Strike is. Like, there's history in what this mechanic of people grouping up on a ship and going off and doing. Like, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
So it was so cool to have them on our stage and to be able to work with them. And yes, like, it'll end up on all platforms. That's not the point.
Yeah.
To me, the point was to be able to have Sega back on our stage. It's been a while. And with a franchise that I actually think can be relevant. Like I think it can be a franchise that people get introduced to and like, wow, I didn't know there was such a thing like this.
I mean, for me, like that's there, in some alt history thing where like Phantasy Star won or grew big the way Final Fantasy did.
Yeah.
Or something like that, off the backs of the single player RPGs they made on the Genesis and Master System and stuff, and branching into this online stuff. Like that's the world I always wanted to see, was where PSO just won out and became the biggest thing in the world. It's just crazy to see it on a press conference stage. And I mean, they announced it for the U.S. years ago and then never made it.
I know.
So
well, that was one thing.
Yeah.
If we're going to announce it, I've done enough of my kind of head fake announces on stages. I'm done with that. If we're going to go say this, I want to know the date. I want to be able to see the game running.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't, especially with a game like that where there's going to be a core that really knows what it is and some other people head scratching, why is this on the stage? But I want to make sure.
Both.
Yeah, exactly. There's some that know what it is and why is this on Xbox's stage. But yeah, I wanted to make sure it was something we can deliver. And they have a good plan. I saw them last night as a team, and they were excited by the reception, which was awesome. I think it kind of surprised them a little bit. But, like for me, another example last year, we talked a little bit about, I think, was Tales of Vesperia HD, and then we have Tales of Arise coming, and I thought it looked great.
Yeah.
And so some of these relationships, whether it's Miyazaki, when we did Dark Souls, now we had Elden Ring, some of the relationships, you have to build trust with them, play games with them, hear their game, hear what they're thinking about. And it's the best part of my job. Honestly, it's the best part of my job. And I'm like a pig in mud when I'm in the studios. But I love the fact that we can do that. We can bring franchises that maybe have kind of lost some of their audience back. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, we're going to let you go in a little bit here, but I want to know, when do you think we'll see the next hit? It seems like a lot of the information about Scarlet almost didn't necessarily advance the next gen storyline. It was we talked last year about things like load times and a lot of that stuff. So this was kind of making good on that.
I want to make sure you heard it, so I just repeated everything.
Well, in the time between, Sony got out there and spoke to Wired with a lot of that same stuff.
Yeah.
And so it almost feels like this, high stakes card game of we're going to call. Not necessarily going to advance the story too far beyond.
It totally is.
And so when will people hear more about Scarlet? I know XO19.
XO19 in London in November. Signed up. We will clearly continue the dialogue. I think the thing I do like, and both us and Sony are doing it, is we're talking a little earlier about a generation or about the next console. Certain people call it generation, certain people won't. But about the next console, which I like, so we don't have to all know what's going on and pretend it's not.
Right.
Like I learned that.
You don't have to worry about leaks if you're just out there
that's
talking
right,
to these
that's
things.
right.
You
Like
can
Scorpio
disclose
helped
developers.
us. That's right.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, honestly, not all the specifics are figured out. The first thing that gets figured out is silicon, because it just the lead times on hardware are really long. You asked me you won't, but what is the name? I honestly don't know what the name is. We do not have the name.
How long is the list of names right now?
We don't even have a list of names. Yeah, it's just that's not where we are yet.
Yeah.
So some of the specifics is just us not being ready to say what's the price point. We're not there yet, right? We obviously have a window of things that we're looking at and kind of watching what tariff things happen and other things, right?
Yeah.
So we obviously designed with a certain capability, but there are a lot of specifics that I know people want. They want to know more about the games. What are certain studios working on that we didn't talk about? And I know that, and I'll apologize at some point about not giving everybody all the information. I will say if my biggest downer at coming out of E3 is people wanted to know more about some of the things that we did. That's not the worst scenario.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to be falsely saving information that I could share. And I want to share stuff when we absolutely know it, whether that's about games that people are speculating on that I want to make sure I'm completely solid on before I stand on stage and talk about them, or specifics of Scarlet, or even some of the pricing on things like xCloud that you push at. And I know people want more information, I think we've shown that I'm dedicated to giving information earlier than we kind of normally have as Xbox. But I also don't want to say things and then I have to change 6 months later,
of course,
because some realities have come up.
Yeah. All right. One last thing, though. Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
Announced for Xbox One, PC, as well as Scarlet. But specifically on the console versions, if we think about forward compatibility and games running forward, will there be 2 versions on sale? Will there be one version that just looks better if you stick it in a Scarlet?
You're
Vice
talking
versa?
about physical.
Yeah, or if it, no, well, digital, or like let's say I buy a digital copy of Halo Infinite for the Xbox One.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later I go get a Scarlet. Is that one SKU? Is that am I getting the upgraded experience? Is there an upgrade fee that I may be paying that's not a full 60,
I
or
get
am I
it.
buying a game twice?
I think it's a great question, and my expectation is, just like we're doing now, that your game would stay with you. But like that is another detail that we're working through.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think if you just look at our history in this space, even from what did we just drop? This will be a silly one, but like Cameo 4K, I think just dropped.
Yeah.
Like I didn't charge you for it, right?
Right.
If you own
Yeah.
Cameo, it just works. It is for us really just about large player bases and putting artificial kind of, hey, can we charge you a little bit more for a near term that actually hurts the long term
Right.
engagement with something. There are financial realities at some point, but that's not really the way we've worked.
Like you're not necessarily winning if someone is playing the Xbox One version of Halo Infinite on a Scarlet.
Yeah,
you-
I don't
you
see why that
benefit.
would be
Yeah.
better for us.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk more specifically about
This
that.
guy's
I
kinda
think if
great.
you look at the history
But you
of
know,
what
people
we've
want to play
done
the old
and
games on the console
continue
they
to
have
do
now, and
on
they
our
want it to be
platforms, it's
accessible.
respects
If you don't
purchases
have
that
it
you've
accessible.
made.
As soon as
and
accessible,
to respect those purchases as long as
they
we
think they're
possibly
winning.
can. So I think it's a great thing for us to provide more clarity to, but I don't see anything about why we wouldn't kind of continue to do what we've been doing.
Cool. All right, Phil. Well, that's been wonderful talking to you again.
Every year, this
Yeah.
is. I said to you, it's always. It's a little bit cathartic. I go home tomorrow, so I come in here. It's a little chill. You guys have beer out there, and you're always really cool with the questions and the comments, and you're insightful. And I'll just say it again. I think you guys do a really great service for E3, so keep doing it. 'Cause
As long as
it's
people
important.
keep coming to E3, we'll have a reason to keep coming.
Well, we have this big
Yeah.
theater
Yeah.
that has our Microsoft name on it.
Yeah.
That we bought Nokia to get that theater, so we're going to be here.
So yeah, well, great. All right, then we'll be here. Maybe not this room. I don't know. The AC has been weird this year.
Uh-oh.
Maybe we'll find a different spot.
It actually smells a little better this year.
Yeah. Yeah. We had to complain and get the AC turned up and maybe aired it out a little bit.
It did.
But
It
yeah.
smells less like human
Well,
than it
and
normally
well, they
does.
also they replaced the chalkboard.
I
It was
know.
like-
I saw that.
When
I was like,
when we got in the room and saw the chalkboard was gone, I was like, well, we got to go somewhere else.
I think
This is
last
not
year the
gonna work.
word weed was right
Yeah,
above my head.
Yeah,
if I remember
that was on your
correctly.
Wikipedia page for a while,
yeah.
which was you're welcome.
That
And,
really, I think it was
been-
in my Microsoft executive corporate profile. Was Phil Spencer with weed above his head?
Great.
But we are in California. So
That's
it's
true.
okay.
It's
and
totally
it's legal in
Yeah.
Washington as well. So
Oh
it's all
well, not a problem then.
That's right.
All right, Phil. Great talking to you.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break and then come back with some more guests. So everybody stay tuned. And yeah, we'll be back.
Cooking live with Born's Video Games. I'm Born Savage. That's my weird spinach, pita, flatbread, okra cheese, and potato quesadilla. guy screwed off. I think it's good for the industry. He wasn't doing a whole lot of good. He was kind of always talking like he was putting down games. Then Smash would come on and be like, "Oh, you're gonna smash your head on a controller. You're gonna be so excited." He was really not saying it right. This might just be reruns though.
So powerful and so thin. It's a whole new realm in gaming.
How can they remake this game like every year? Every like 5 years. And people still buy it. How did they do that? They made one game a long time ago and it was like you didn't probably even want to make it and they made it easily. They're still making money off